"Welfare kids like you," Carson Davis sneered, his voice slicing through the hum of the cafeteria like a razor. "Your ghetto mama probably cannot even afford a car, drops you off on a bike like the charity cases you are." No pause, no warning. He yanked Blake's backpack and hurled it across the room. It slammed against the wall with a deafening crash, papers flying like startled birds. Then Carson's cronies swept the lunch trays to the floor. Pancakes, sandwiches, and juice, food that their mother had woken at dawn to prepare, now painted Brin's only clean shirt in defeat. "This is what happens when schools lower their standards for diversity," Carson announced to a sea of 200 phone-wielding students. Cameras glinted like daggers, capturing every moment. Reed Taylor stepped forward, grinding sandwiches into the tiles, a grotesque smile curling across his face. Blake moved slowly, deliberately, muscles coiled with control. Brin didn't cry, didn't flinch. Her stare was a warning, ice meeting fire, and Carson couldn't read it. "We'll remember this," Blake murmured, quiet but heavy, each word a promise. Carson laughed, a sharp, empty sound. "In 72 hours, he'll be on his knees in this exact spot, begging you for forgiveness. This cafeteria stunt, just the appetizer." But what no one saw, the 200 staring, the videos uploaded within minutes, was the pattern the Brooks twins had endured since day one at Riverside Prep. Day one, guidance counselor's office. Mrs. Patterson smiled at them, the smile that never reaches the eyes. "So, basketball or track?" she asked, glancing at their athletic frames. Blake's transcript sat on her desk, glowing with perfect scores in calculus and physics, national merit semi-finalist credentials, screaming intelligence, but she hadn't even opened it. "We're interested in the advanced STEM program," Brin said carefully. "We both qualified based on our entrance exams." Mrs. Patterson blinked. "Oh, ambitious. Let's start you on a regular track and see how you adjust. Riverside is very rigorous." The paperwork stared back, ignored. Day 2. Every teacher butchered their names like exotic riddles. "Blake Brooks?" Mr. Henderson squinted at the roster. "Is that Black?" "Yes, sir, Blake," Blake said, patience folding into disbelief. "And your sister?" "Brin, Brin." He didn't write it down. By third period, she had been Brianna, and once inexplicably, Beyonce. Every correction ignored, every mispronunciation a silent dismissal. Day 3. Despite perfect scores, remedial group assignments, classmates assuming scholarship athletes, not academic scholars. The counselor's subtle nudges suggested alternative paths that didn't include AP courses. Day 4. The cafeteria explosion, the video that went viral, 2 million views in 24 hours. Half the school laughed, half looked away. Brin and Blake became untouchable, but in the most invisible, insidious way. Day 5. The pattern etched itself into the walls of Riverside Prep. Students flowed around them like water past stones. Carson's crew had cemented their cruelty. The DMs exploded, messages sliding in behind their backs, whispers and mockery reaching them even in silence. Blake and Brin weren't just surviving, they were noting, calculating, remembering. And the storm was just beginning. Group chats exploded with Carson's videos, laughing emojis, fire reactions, screenshots passed around like trophies. "Did you see how he just owned them?" one message read. "Diversity hires can't even defend their lunch. Why are they even here?" But not everyone saw it that way. Sarah Ashley Martin sat 3 tables away, phone in hand like everyone else. But she wasn't laughing. Her stomach twisted as she watched the twins, Blake and Brin. They didn't cry. They didn't beg. They cleaned up the mess with a quiet dignity that cut through her chest. She wanted to say something, anything, to stop Carson. But her finger hovered over the share button, frozen, and she hated herself for it. Everyone sees it. No one says anything, including me. Coach Anderson had seen it too. Walk past the cafeteria, he thought later, remembering the trays hitting the floor. Keep walking. When another teacher mentioned it in the lounge, he shrugged. Kids will be kids. They're just establishing the pecking order. Brooks twins will toughen up, or they won't. Principal Wilson's response was worse. Diane Brooks called that evening, her voice raw from a double shift at the hospital. His secretary took the message. 2 days later, Wilson returned the call, bureaucratic patience dripping from each word. Mrs. Brooks, we've reviewed the incident. No clear evidence of targeted harassment. Sometimes students struggle to adjust to Riverside's culture. Perhaps Blake and Brin would be more comfortable at a school better suited to their background. Their background? Diane's hand clenched on the phone. Top 5% of the entrance exam. National merit semifinalists. Their background earned them that seat. Translation, leave. You don't belong here. Make it easy on everyone. That night, Blake and Brin sat at the small kitchen table. Mom asleep on the couch, exhausted from another double shift. Little sister Emma, 6, was supposed to be doing homework, but kept staring at a photo on the shelf. 2 7-year-olds on a podium, gold medals glinting, international flags behind them. Their father's hands rested on their shoulders, faces full of joy. "Why don't you do karate anymore?" Emma asked softly. Blake's jaw tightened. "That was a long time ago." "But you were so good. You won everything. Dad said you were champions." "Dad's gone," Brin said quietly. "Mom needs us to focus on school now, not fighting." Emma's small fingers brushed the frame. "You look happy there." They had been. Before the car accident, before their father died instantly, before their mother's leg was shattered so badly she could no longer work as a physical therapist, before the medals and uniforms were packed away, promises made in the sterile hospital room. "We'll stop competing. We'll focus on school. Make Dad proud in a different way." 7 years. 7 years since stepping into a dojo. Muscle memory remained, silent and precise. Blake still practiced forms in his room every morning, invisible to anyone who didn't know what to look for. Later, after Emma was asleep, Brin stared at her soft-stained shirt soaking in the sink. Their only decent clothes, their mother's carefully packed lunches trampled into the floor. Casual cruelty, sharper than any punch. "We could end this tomorrow," she whispered. Blake watched the city lights from the window. "Mom made us promise we left that life behind. We're here for education, not exhibition. But if they keep pushing us out..." The thought hung like smoke. Blake turned to his sister. "Dad used to say a black belt was a responsibility. We protect people, we don't punish them." "Maybe," Brin said. "But what if protecting ourselves means showing them who we really are?" No answer. Not yet. Across town, Carson Davis posted another video mocking the "diversity admits." Views climbed. Comments grew vicious. By morning, the whole school would be buzzing again. The twins had stayed silent for 5 days, patient, dignified, controlled. But silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Wednesday morning arrived, heavy with dread. Assembly Day. 600 students packed the auditorium, half paying attention, half pretending not to notice the tension in the air. But today was different. Blake and Brin entered, eyes meeting hundreds of whispers. Carson's latest video had gone viral overnight, 3 million views. Here we see the diversity admits in their natural habitat. Phones lifted, recording every step as the twins tried, futilely, to remain invisible. Carson and his crew sat front row, center stage. Reed Taylor, already filming, grin wide. Principal Wilson droned on about homecoming and bake sales, then suddenly brightened. "And now, as part of our commitment to inclusivity, I'd like to invite our newest students to the stage. Blake and Brin Brooks, please come up." The twins froze. This wasn't on the program. 600 eyes turned, phones out, no escape. Step by step, they walked down the aisle. That's when Carson's foot shot out. Blake saw it coming, but couldn't stop it. Carson's foot caught his shoe and he stumbled forward, barely catching himself at the edge of the stage. Laughter exploded through the auditorium, loud, mocking, relentless. "Careful! Diversity hire!" Carson called, voice dripping with sarcasm, loud enough for the microphones. "Wouldn't want you to sue us for emotional damage." More laughter. Principal Wilson's smile tightened, but he stayed silent. The twins kept walking, faces neutral, hearts hammering. Brin's hands clenched at her sides, knuckles white, a fighter's reflex barely suppressed. They reached the stage and stood under the harsh auditorium lights. Then a crumpled paper ball hit Brin on the head, not hard enough to injure, but perfectly designed to humiliate. Wilson cleared his throat weakly. "Students, let's show respect." Carson was already moving toward them, confidence radiating like a predator who'd never met resistance. Reed followed, camera rolling. "Principal Wilson, sir," Carson said, voice coated in false politeness. "Since we're welcoming them, why don't we see what special skills got them in here?" The auditorium went silent. "Carson, sit down," Wilson said weakly. "Come on," Carson pressed. "Athletes demonstrate skills, musicians perform. What can the Brooks twins show us? Dance, rap, or did you just check the right boxes?" Students shifted uneasily, most phones still out. This was content. Blake felt Brin's hand brush his, a silent question. He nodded. Brin stepped to the microphone, voice steady, controlled. "We can handle ourselves. If Carson wants to see what we can do, we're happy to demonstrate." Shock rippled through the crowd. Nobody expected that. Carson's grin widened, sharp with danger. "Oh, it's on. You think you can step to us?" "Friday," Blake said, voice carrying without a microphone. "After school, the gym, you and Reed versus us. A sparring demonstration for the whole school." Carson laughed, but there was a sharp edge. "A fight? You're challenging me?" "Not a fight," Brin corrected. "A demonstration, school-sanctioned. Show everyone what we're capable of." "Unless you're afraid," Blake added, letting the word hang in the air like a hook. The murmurs spread. Afraid. Carson's eyes flickered. He couldn't let that stand. "Yeah, we'll do it," he barked. "Friday 4 And when I'm done, you'll stand up and admit you don't belong here. Charity cases taking up space." Blake's expression didn't change. "And when we win," Carson continued, "you apologize publicly to every student here for everything." "When I win," Carson shouted, "you transfer out. Tell everyone you couldn't cut it." Principal Wilson found his voice. "This is inappropriate. It's just a demonstration, sir." Carson cut him off. "School spirit, character development, right?" The principal had lost control. "Fine," Brin said, calm and deadly precise. "Friday 4, gym, the whole school watches. When this is over, everyone will know who belongs here." Carson stepped closer. "You're going to regret this. I'm going to make you wish you'd never walked through our doors." "We'll see," Blake said. Then, looking into Reed's camera, "Make sure you get it all on video. People will want to watch this more than once." The assembly dissolved into chaos. Phones lit the room, messages flew. Within minutes, for Riverside Showdown was trending locally. By lunch, it had spread across 3 states. Carson and his crew strutted out, chest puffed like conquering heroes, already plotting their next moves. Blake and Brin slipped out a side door, avoiding cameras. Sarah Ashley Martin caught up to them in the hallway. "Are you serious?" she asked, voice trembling. "Carson's trained in martial arts since he was 10. Reed's got 50 pounds on you. He's going to try to hurt you." Blake looked at her, really looked, and she caught it. Something in his eyes that made her breath hitch. Not fear, not anger, something controlled, patient, dangerous. "We're serious," he said. They walked on, shoulders squared, heads high. Sarah pulled out her phone, typing Blake and Brin Brooks martial arts. Nothing came up. Blake and Brin Brooks, competition. Nothing. No digital footprint, no tournament photos. No records of championships, no local news mentions. Either they were delusional, about to humiliate themselves in front of the entire school, or hiding something massive. Sarah Ashley Martin kept searching, obsession clawing at her. 3 days to figure it out. 3 days until Friday. The news spread like wildfire. By lunch, the whole school knew. Teachers whispered in hallways, careful not to be overheard. Students placed bets, heavy cash on Carson. The smart money said the twins would back out before Friday. Optimistic bets put them at 30 seconds max. Nobody bet on the twins winning. Nobody. That afternoon, Coach Anderson pulled Carson aside in the gym. "You sure about this? Those kids are scrawny. You could really hurt them." Carson grinned. "That's the point, Coach. They need to learn their place. Besides, it's just sparring. School sanctioned, remember?" Coach Anderson frowned but didn't push. "Keep it clean. No serious injuries. I don't want lawsuits." "Don't worry, Coach. I'll be gentle." "At first," Carson replied, a smirk cutting across his face. Across campus, in an empty classroom, Blake and Brin sat in silence, the weight of the coming storm settling in around them. "Mom's going to find out," Brin whispered. Blake nodded. "Yeah. She'll remember the promise we made." "Are we doing the right thing?" Brin asked. Blake was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Dad used to say a black belt was about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. We've been walking away for 5 days. Maybe it's time to show them what happens when we stand still." Brin looked at her brother, eyes narrowing with focus. 7 years since they'd competed. 7 years since anyone had seen the power they could wield. 7 years of hiding, pretending, being less than they were. "We do this Dad's way," Brin said finally. "Controlled, precise, nothing extra. Just enough to teach the lesson." Blake nodded. "Just enough." Outside, the sun dipped beneath the skyline. Somewhere, their mother finished her shift at the hospital, exhausted, unaware that in 72 hours, her children would confront a promise she had made them swear 7 years ago. The countdown had begun, and Riverside Prep had no idea what was coming. By the time school ended Wednesday, the assembly video had been shared over 10,000 times. Cafeteria tables buzzed, group chats exploded, Instagram stories lit up. The stakes were clear. If the twins lost, public apology, admitting they didn't belong, then voluntary transfer out. If Carson and Reed lost, public apology for harassment, admission they lied about diversity hire claims, plus 50 hours of community service. By Thursday morning, Carson was already holding court at his locker, demonstrating moves, flexing, and taunting. "First hard hit, they fold," he said, throwing a slow-motion punch. "I've been training since I was 10. Reed's got the weight advantage. This'll be over in under a minute." Someone filmed it. Another 1,000,000 views by lunch. The betting pools grew vicious. Odds: 15-1 against the twins. Nobody believed Blake and Brin could win. Nobody, except Sarah Ashley Martin. She'd spent the night searching, found nothing, and the emptiness made her instincts scream. Something was being hidden. Something dangerous. Thursday afternoon, Coach Anderson called everyone into his office. Carson, Reed, Blake, Brin, Principal Wilson, witnesses to the agreement. "This is against my better judgment," Principal Wilson said, signing a form. "But since both parties insist and parents have been notified, we'll allow this demonstration." Rules laid down by Coach Anderson. No strikes to the face. No serious harm. First to yield or 3-point score wins. Understood? Blake and Brin exchanged a single glance. Calm, controlled, they understood. Everything had been leading to this moment. Everyone nodded. Carson leaned back, smirking. "Just so we're clear, when they lose, they apologize at Monday's assembly, right? Admit they don't belong, then they're gone." And when you lose, Brin said quietly, eyes steady, you apologize for every racist thing you've said, admit you lied, and spend 50 hours helping people instead of hurting them. Carson's smirk widened. Sure, when I lose, which won't happen. It was official now, binding, signed, sealed. As they left, Reed pulled Carson aside. Man, you sure? What if they're actually good? Carson laughed. At what? Look at them. Small, scared, never throw a punch. This is going to be easy. But Reed couldn't shake it. Something about how the twins moved. Too calm, too controlled. That evening, Diane Brooks returned home at 9 p.m., exhausted. Missed calls blinked on her phone, Riverside Prep. She listened to the voicemail, a sanctioned sparring demonstration. Her hand tightened around the phone. She knew that phrase. It was what they called competitions when Blake and Brin were 7, before everything fell apart. She walked to their room, finding them quietly doing homework. Dangerous calm radiated from them. You want to tell me what's going on? She asked softly. Blake spoke carefully. Mom, they've been pushing us every day. Cafeteria, our food, trampled, called us charity cases in front of everyone. Diane's jaw tightened. She'd seen the stains on Brin's shirt. So, you challenged them to a fight? Not a fight, Brin said, voice controlled. A demonstration. We're not trying to hurt anyone, just to show they can't treat people like that. After your father died, Diane said, voice shaking, after I got hurt, I made you promise. No competitions, no violence. You swore. This isn't violence, Mom, Blake said. It's justice. Justice that looks like violence is still violence, Diane whispered. Silence. She looked at these kids who'd given up everything 7 years ago, packed away medals and dreams, suffered in silence for 5 days. She touched her leg, the one that never fully healed. What happens when you win? She asked quietly. Not if. When? They apologize, Brin said firmly, for everything. And if you lose? Blake met her eyes. We won't. Diane wanted to stop them, but she saw it. The same look their father used to get. Calm, focused, unshakable. Your father used to say a black belt was a responsibility. You protect those who can't protect themselves. We're protecting ourselves, Blake said, and the next kids who come after us. Diane closed her eyes, remembering her husband's voice, Blake and Brin at 7, precise, beautiful, unstoppable. You stay controlled, she finally said. You don't hurt them more than necessary. Show them what you are, then walk away. No revenge, no anger, just the truth. Blake and Brin nodded. And I'm taking the day off work tomorrow. I'll be there. If my children are going to show that school who they really are, their mother is going to watch. Thursday night, Blake and Brin couldn't sleep. The weight of tomorrow pressed down like a physical thing. At 2 a.m., Brin gave up. She slipped out of bed, pulled a small, dusty box from the back of her closet. Wrapped in an old shirt, unopened for 7 years. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside, 2 small gold medals on faded ribbons. A competition program printed in Korean and English. A photograph that made her breath catch. Blake appeared in the doorway, silent, sitting beside her. The photo told everything. 2 7-year-olds on a podium, arms raised, smiles wide, flags from 30 countries behind them, an arena packed with 8,000 cheering spectators. Seoul, Brin whispered. Junior World Championships. We were the youngest ever. Blake picked up one of the medals, heavy for something so small. Synchronized Patterns Division. Gold. Memories flooded back. Sharp, vivid, unstoppable. Flashback, age 5. Dad's dojo. Daniel Brooks, kneeling to be eye level with his children, 3rd-degree black belt, former professional competitor. Taekwondo isn't about fighting, he said. It's about knowing you have power. and choosing when to use it. Can you handle that responsibility? They nodded, not fully understanding. They just wanted to be like Dad. Age 6, discipline, 5 a.m., wake-ups, forms until legs shook, meditation until heartbeats could be slowed by thought alone. Their father's voice, constant, patient, demanding. Again, cleaner. Precision isn't close enough. It's perfect or it's nothing. Other kids played video games. Blake and Brin learned to move like water. Age 7, soul, the moment that changed everything. Junior World Championships, arena massive, 8,000 in the stands, 30 countries represented, cameras everywhere, Blake and Brin terrified. "You know what to do," their father said backstage, hands on their shoulders. "You've done this 1,000 times in practice. Just do it once more together." They walked onto the mat, 2 7-year-old kids in traditional doughbox. The crowd laughed. So small, so young. How could they possibly compete? Then the music started. 3 minutes of perfect synchronization. Every block, every strike, every kick executed with precision adult competitors couldn't match. They moved like mirror images, like one mind split into 2 bodies, forces of nature in human form. The crowd went silent, then erupted. Standing ovation, 8,000 people. Judges conferred less than 30 seconds. Perfect 10 across the board. Gold medal, championship title, youngest winners in tournament history. Their father lifted them both, one in each arm, and the photo captured that moment. Pure joy, pure pride, pure love. That was the peak. 6 months later, everything shattered. Driving home from a regional competition, Blake and Brin sat in the back seat, still wearing their medals. Their father spoke excitedly about training for the next Junior Worlds. Their mother planned travel logistics, unaware of the storm ahead. Then the intersection. The truck ran a red light. The impact turned their world into screaming metal and shattered glass. Their father died on impact. The doctor said he didn't suffer. Blake and Brin walked away with bruises. Their mother's leg was crushed. 3 surgeries couldn't fully repair it. Her career as a physical therapist ended in 1 second. 3 weeks later in the hospital, Diane Brooks looked at her 8-year-old children. Leg in a cast, face hollowed by grief and medication, she whispered, "I need you to promise me something. No more competitions, no more tournaments. Pack away the medals. We focus on school now, on building a normal life. Your father would want that. Can you promise me?" Blake and Brin, 8 years old, already fluent in the language of sacrifice, nodded. "We promise, Mom." The years that followed. Medals in a box, dough box tucked in the back of the closet. Dojo invitations declined one by one. Their mother said no to every offer of free training from their father's martial arts friends. Too many memories, too much pain. But muscle memory didn't disappear. Blake still woke at 5 miles a.m., running forms in his room, silent, precise, invisible. Brin practiced breathing techniques, meditation, and the mental control their father had drilled into them. Training in shadows, alone, hidden, while the world forgot who they'd been. Present moment, 2 a.m., holding ghosts. Blake and Brin sat on the floor, the old photo between them, 2 7-year-olds on top of the world. Before tragedy, before loss, before learning that being exceptional came with a cost. "Remember what Dad used to say?" Blake whispered. "Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to walk away." "We've been walking away," Brin replied, "for 7 years. Maybe it's time to show them what happens when we stand still." Brin looked at the photograph. 2 kids who'd conquered the world before the world broke them. "We do this his way," she said. "Controlled, precise. We don't hurt them more than necessary. We just show them the truth." "The truth," Blake agreed. "That we belong anywhere we choose to be. That we earned our place. That we're not who they think we are." They sat until sunrise, holding memories, medals, the ghost of their father's voice. Power without control is chaos. Compassion without strength is just words. You need both. Always both. Tomorrow, they'd show Riverside Prep exactly what that meant. Honor their father by being who he raised them to be. 7 years of silence ending. The world would see the champions again. Blake carefully placed the medals back in the box, but this time he didn't close it. Win or lose, he whispered. We stop hiding. Brin nodded. We stop hiding. Outside, the pre-dawn sky was gray. Friday was coming. The demonstration, the revelation, the reckoning. Everything their father taught them, discipline, control, compassion wrapped in strength, would be tested in front of 400 students. And a boy who had no idea what he'd awakened, Carson Davis. He thought he was fighting charity cases. He was about to face legends. Legends don't beg. Legends don't break. Legends don't hide. Legends teach. One final lesson before the sun rose. Blake and Brin stood together in their small room, moving through a synchronized form they hadn't performed in 7 years. Muscle memory took over. Precision returned as if it had never left. Their bodies remembered what their hearts had never forgotten. They were ready. Friday arrived like a storm everyone saw coming, but nobody could stop. By 3:30, the gym was packed. 400 students lined the walls, sat on bleachers, crowded around the mat Coach Anderson had rolled out in the center. Phones lit the room. Every angle documented. Carson and Reed arrived early, shadowboxing, stretching, playing to the crowd. Carson wore athletic gear probably worth more than the Brooks family's monthly groceries. Confident, ready. 30 seconds, he told Reed, loud enough for students to hear. That's all it takes. First hard hit, they fold. The betting pool had closed. Final odds, 20-1 against the twins. Someone had put down $500 on Carson. Nobody had bet serious money on Blake and Brin except Sarah Ashley Martin, who'd spent 3 days searching and found nothing. 2 kids with 0 digital footprint in martial arts. That wasn't normal. That was intentional. At 3:45, Blake and Brin walked in. Immediate reaction. Laughter, whispers, sympathetic groans. The twins looked small. Blake maybe 5'7", lean but not muscular. Brin even smaller. Simple athletic clothes. Barefoot as if this were a traditional ceremony, but their faces made Sarah catch her breath. No fear, no anger, just calm, absolute certainty. Behind them, Diane Brooks moved slowly, favoring her bad leg. She found a spot against the wall, eyes fierce. She'd taken the day off to witness her children break a promise she'd made them swear 7 years ago. Coach Anderson stepped to center. This is a supervised demonstration, not a street fight. Rules. No strikes to the face, no intentional injury. First to yield or 3 points wins. I'm the referee. My word is final. Understood. Carson nodded, grinning. Blake and Brin bowed slightly, a traditional gesture that made students snicker. Fighters center. 4 stepped forward. Carson and Reed on one side, Blake and Brin on the other. The gym went silent, electric, a hush pregnant with expectation, with dread. Begin. Carson charged at Brin, fist aimed at her shoulder, within rules but meant to hurt. Brin sidestepped. Simple. Just a step left. Carson's fist cut empty air, momentum carrying him past. Reed came at Blake, throwing a wide hook. Blake ducked, smooth, controlled, as if he'd seen it coming from miles away. 3 seconds, 4 attacks thrown, 0 landed. Lucky, Carson muttered. He came again. Jab, cross, low kick. Brin moved like water around each strike. Footwork minimal, precise, geometric. She was never where his attacks landed. Blake faced Reed's bull rush, pure size trying to overwhelm. Blake pivoted, redirecting Reed's momentum with the lightest touch. Reed stumbled, eyes wide, frustrated. 15 seconds, 8 strikes thrown, still 0 contact. The crowd started noticing. Have they been hit yet? No. But they weren't fighting back. Blake and Brin weren't attacking, just defending, moving, breathing steady. Carson and Reed huffed, sweat dripping. Carson threw a harder punch at Blake's ribs, real force behind it. Blake's hand caught Carson's wrist mid-strike, gently guiding it past. For half a second, Carson felt the grip strength. Iron. Blake let go, stepped back, hands returning to neutral. Eyes widened. That wasn't normal. Reed launched combinations at Brin. She slipped each by inches, breathing never changing. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. Ancient rhythm, meditation in motion. The crowd murmured. Phones capturing everything. "They're not even trying," someone whispered. "No," Sarah Ashley Martin thought. "They're trying not to hurt them." 1 minute. 23 strikes thrown, 0 landed. The twins hadn't countered once. Carson, face red, shouting, "Why won't you fight?" Blake's voice was quiet. "We are fighting. You just don't recognize it yet." Anger flared in Carson. He charged again. Punches, kicks, combinations from years of training. Impressive technique, perfect form. It would have demolished most opponents, but Blake moved through it like smoke. Each strike inches away, never connecting. Movement, textbook classical. Hours of drilling. Coach Anderson's eyes widened. Those weren't lucky dodges. Those were trained, high-level, Olympic-caliber defensive patterns. Reed rushed Brin, arms out, trying to force her down. Brin stepped closer than expected. Suddenly, subtle wrist rotation, minimal weight shift, and 200 pounds of Reed's momentum rotated through empty air. He hit the mat on his back, not hurt, just stunned, staring at Brin like she was impossible. The crowd gasped. Did you see that? 90 seconds in. Carson alone now. Reed still on the mat, trying to process. Carson came at Blake with everything left. Faster, harder, desperate. Smirk gone, replaced by dawning horror. Blake's defense shifted. Less evasion, more redirection. He caught punches, guided them away, caught kicks, set them down gently. Every movement precise, controlled, like a teacher correcting a student's form. The crowd went from laughing to silent to awestruck. Students lowered phones just watching. This wasn't a fight. This was a lesson, a demonstration, the difference between training and mastery. "They're toying with them," a student whispered. "No," another replied. "They're showing mercy." 2 minutes in. Carson stopped, hands on knees, breathing like he'd run a marathon. Reed sat on the mat, staring at Brin as if she were an optical illusion. The lesson had begun, and nobody in that gym, including Carson, would ever forget it. 34 strikes thrown, 0 landed. The twins hadn't broken a sweat, not a single flinch, not a single misstep. Carson straightened, face red, not from exertion, not entirely, but from a deeper, more corrosive heat. Humiliation. Hands trembling, not from fear, but from the horrifying realization that he had been completely outclassed, and they hadn't even tried to hit back. "What are you?" he breathed. Blake's expression didn't change. Calm, controlled. "We're students just like you. We earned our place here just like you. The difference is we don't need to prove it by hurting people." Carson glanced at the crowd. Phones, faces staring, not at him but at the twins with respect, awe, recognition. He had wanted to humiliate them. Instead, he had revealed them. They had barely moved 20 feet from their starting positions, breathing steady, calm, like they could maintain this rhythm for hours. And suddenly, horribly, Carson understood. This wasn't their limit. This wasn't them trying. This was them holding back, showing restraint, demonstrating exactly how much they were choosing not to hurt him. Everything Carson had built his reputation on, strength, dominance, never backing down, crumbled in 2 minutes of failing to land a single hit. Reed had yielded without a word. Carson had one choice left: desperation, recklessness. He saw the weight rack near the wall, grabbed a 5 lb plate. Against the rules, dangerous, foolish, but humiliation clouds judgment. "Carson, no!" Coach Anderson shouted, rushing forward. But Carson was already swinging the plate toward Blake, a wild, chaotic arc meant to finally land something. The gym erupted. Students screamed. Diane Brooks pushed forward, but too far. Phones captured every frame. Time slowed. Blake had 1 second to choose. Absorb it, dodge it, or... He chose a third way. Step inside the swing, closer to danger, palm open. Hand met chest. Not a strike, not a push. A gentle, precise redirection of Carson's own momentum. Carson staggered backward. Weight clattered harmlessly to the floor. He hit the mat hard, not injured, not hurt, just utterly neutralized. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. 8 seconds. 1 touch. And it was over. Blake stood there, hands still extended, like he had pressed a pause button on Carson's attack. The crowd couldn't breathe, couldn't comprehend. That level of control, precision, and discipline was impossible in any ordinary martial arts class. This was something else, something almost inhuman. Carson sat staring up, seeing for the first time what it meant to be outmatched. Not by strength, not by size, but by skill so superior there was no comparison, no hope, no escape. Blake extended a hand. Compassion, not triumph. Mercy, not mockery. Carson didn't take it. Couldn't. Humiliation was too complete. He just sat there, broken. Coach Anderson blew the whistle, but no one needed it. Every eye in the gym knew what had happened. The impossible had occurred. The diversity hires, the charity cases, the kids who supposedly didn't belong, they had just demonstrated a level of mastery no one in that building could match. The twins had won without throwing a strike, without hurting anyone, without breaking a sweat. And somehow that made it worse for Carson than any beating could ever have been. Phones still recording, breaths still held, reality sinking in. Then, from the back of the crowd, a voice cut through the stunned silence. "Wait, I know them. I've seen them before." Sarah Ashley Martin stepped forward, phone in hand, screen glowing. Recognition spread through the room. Something was about to be revealed. And the legend of the Brooks twins, the champions, the unstoppable, was about to become undeniable. Her voice shook, not from fear, but from the shock of discovery. "I spent 3 days searching," Sarah Ashley Martin said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Couldn't find anything, but I just found it." She held up her phone. Grainy, old footage, 7 years old. Students leaned in, squinting at the small screen. Then their eyes went wide. The video showed an arena, massive. 8,000 people in the stands. Flags from 30 countries hung from the ceiling. In the center, 2 tiny figures in traditional white uniforms. 2 7-year-olds performing a synchronized form that brought the entire arena to its feet. The camera zoomed in on their faces. Blake and Brin Brooks, 7 years younger, same focused eyes, same impossible precision. Junior World Taekwondo Championships. Seoul, South Korea, synchronized patterns division, gold medal, youngest competitors in tournament history. Sarah's voice rose over the crowd. They weren't just competitors, they were international champions. The video spread instantly, phone to phone, student to student. Within 30 seconds, half the gym was watching. Within a minute, everyone had seen it. Comments scrolled. "Best demonstration I've ever witnessed in 30 years of judging." "These kids are prodigies, future Olympians." "Perfect 10s across the board." "Impossible at this age." Coach Anderson took Sarah's phone with shaking hands. He watched the 7-year-olds move with precision that professional athletes spend decades trying to achieve. He looked up at Blake and Brin standing in his gym, then at Carson sitting on the mat, defeated. "You've been holding back," he whispered, "this whole time." Blake's voice was quiet, steady. "We retired 7 years ago after our father died. We promised our mother no more competitions, no more violence. We kept that promise. Until now. You could have destroyed them, Coach Anderson said, voice trembling. Yes, Brin said simply. But we didn't. No, Blake added, because our father taught us that a black belt isn't about what you can do, it's about what you choose to do. The crowd processed that. The twins everyone had laughed at, called diversity hires, accused of not belonging, they were legends. Child prodigies who, conquered the world stage before most of these students had learned to ride a bike. And they'd chosen mercy, restraint, demonstration over domination. Carson, still on the mat, finally understood the weight of his actions. He hadn't just bullied new students, he'd tormented retired champions, children who could have humiliated him instantly, yet chose not to. His hands covered his face, shoulders shook, not from anger, but from pure, crushing shame. The video continued. 2 7-year-olds on a podium, gold medals around their necks, their father's hands on their shoulders. The last moment of pure joy before tragedy tore everything away. Principal Wilson, just arriving, stood frozen at the gym entrance. He had told these kids they didn't belong. He had suggested a different school, and they were champions. Literal world champions. The narrative shattered. Everything everyone thought they knew about Blake and Brin Brooks was wrong. And there was no going back. The silence broke when Carson slowly stood, unsteady, the ground of his assumptions ripped away. He looked at the twins, the ones he had called charity cases, diversity hires, kids who didn't belong. World champions. I didn't know, he said, voice broken. You didn't ask, Blake replied quietly, firmly. You assumed. I thought you were taking something from me, a spot I earned. Brin's eyes didn't soften. We earned our spots too, different tests, same standards. Check the records. Principal Wilson, still at the entrance, pulled out his phone, scrolling through the admissions database. Entrance exam scores, 98th percentile for both. Academic scholarships, merit-based, top 5%. He went pale. We dismissed students who outscored 98% of applicants, the gym murmured. Students looked ashamed. Phones recorded. Reality sank in. Carson stood in the center of the mat, the weight of his actions crushing him. I was wrong, he said, voice shaking, about everything. You didn't take anything, Blake said. I was scared, Carson continued. Scared you were better than me, so I tried to make you seem less. I'm sorry, to both of you, to everyone. Reed stepped up. Me too. I went along. I laughed. I filmed it. That makes me just as guilty. Brin glanced at Blake. Silent communication passed between them. We accept that, Blake said. But what matters now is what you do next. Carson nodded, tears streaming. What do I do? You start by telling the truth, Brin replied. Blake addressed the crowd. Dad used to say, see the story behind the face. You all missed yours, Carson. You missed ours. Everyone here did. You saw our skin, judged our background, and decided we didn't belong. We stopped competing 7 years ago. After our father died, after our mother was injured, we made a promise. Focus on school. Never use what we knew unless absolutely necessary. We kept that promise through harassment, through insults, through humiliation. Because Dad taught us, having the power to destroy someone and choosing instead to teach them, that's real strength. The words hung in the air. Students lowered their heads. Phones stopped recording as if in reverence. Sarah Ashley Martin stepped forward, phone in hand. I watched everything and did nothing, she said. That ends today. She uploaded the championship video to Instagram. Courage. The twins had chosen mercy over victory. Principal Wilson stepped forward, voice heavy. This school failed you. I failed you. We saw what we expected instead of who you were. He called for mandatory implicit bias training for all staff, student-led diversity councils, and a complete review of treatment for every student. Coach Anderson approached the twins. "I'd like you both to help with our martial arts program, not as students, as instructors. Teach real discipline." Blake and Brin exchanged a glance. "We'll think about it," Blake said. Carson stepped forward hesitantly. "Would you teach me? Not just fighting, discipline, respect, everything." Blake studied him. "Real training means facing yourself, your weaknesses, your cruelty. Can you handle that?" Carson nodded. "I just faced myself in front of 400 people. I can handle it." Blake extended his hand. This time, Carson took it. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a beginning. Diane Brooks approached, tears streaming. "You stayed true to yourselves and your father," she whispered, hugging them. "He'd say you won twice today, the fight and your souls." A small voice piped up. Little Emma Brooks, eyes wide. "Can we do karate again?" Blake knelt, voice gentle. "Maybe, but only to teach what Dad taught. Not to be the strongest, but to know who you are and never apologize for it." Emma nodded. "Can I start tomorrow?" Brin smiled. "We'll see." As the Brooks family exited, Sarah posted the truth online. "Thank you," Brin said. "For what?" "For speaking up. That's more than most people did," Blake replied. The gym lights dimmed. The demonstration was over, but its impact had just begun. By Monday, the video hit 10 million views. But it wasn't the fight people shared. It was the moment after Blake extended his hand, Carson's tears, two kids choosing to teach rather than destroy. The fate tales of Blake and Brin Brooks spread, lessons of mercy, restraint, and courage. Riverside Prep changed gradually. Students spoke up. Teachers questioned assumptions. Sarah started a podcast chronicling their story. Carson completed community service, then joined the twins' martial arts class. The culture shifted because two kids showed what power wrapped in compassion truly looked like. And somewhere, in whatever comes after, Daniel Brooks smiled. His children had honored him perfectly, not through victories alone, but by being champions of character. The gold never tarnishes.